All right. So normally I don't watch football anymore. For those that are interested, I played college football and I coach high school football from time to time. So I just don't really watch football anymore unless I'm trying to break something down from a schematic standpoint. So the NFL just doesn't really interest me. Fantasy football isn't football as far as I'm concerned. It's stats and probability. Um, During fantasy, I will watch the ticker to see what's going on in a game. And I was watching the ticker and I was like, what is going on in this game? There's some bad coaching that was going on in this game. From a fantasy perspective, I went back and I watched the highlights and wow, um, neither of these teams look very good at all. The Chiefs look like a train wreck. That's partially not surprising because, when you lose your number one receiver a couple days before the opener, that's probably going to throw a few monkey wrenches into things. The main thing to take away from this from a fantasy perspective is, well, I'll start off with if you're wrong, you're wrong. Sky Moore, that was bad. I did see him on the field. It doesn't look like they are looking to target him vertically, where some of his routes he was running were shorter routes, which is kind of what to be expected, like a yards after the catch type of guy. But from a perspective of the Chiefs offense, that was a train wreck, and I can break down some of it really succinctly. When you use this many players, you have basically like design plays to go to guys in particular packages. If you continue to do this, you're just going to tip your hand with what you're trying to do. They also ran a whole bunch of grab bag gimmicky plays, and some of them blew up in their faces. I mean, this is just bad coaching, especially at the end with the two teams trying to out lose the game for each other. As you can see from targets perspective, like the number two guys that got targets were Noah Gray and Kadarius Toney. Toney had a horrific game. Noah Gray kind of what you'd expect filling in for Kelsey. Patrick Mahomes like barely completed over 50% of his passes. Whatever was going down the field, they weren't trying to check it down. He was trying to push vertically. There just doesn't appear to be guys open. If you're wondering about Rashee Rice, I didn't see it in the highlights. The touchdown was not designed to him. It was basically like a scramble drill. A play broke down. There was protection, and Rice got open the back of the end zone. Pacheco getting the 4 targets and 4 catches was interesting. Clyde CEH was rotating in a little bit. McKinnon was the receiving back. None of that's particularly interesting. All the receivers, they played 7 receivers. They all had targets. That was something that we knew was going to happen coming into the season. But man, like when you are throwing this many guys into the field, unless you are looking to just be as random as possible so the other team cannot track what you're trying to do, which is hard enough to do on your own, you have to basically have a coach that's doing it for you to say, hey, you're showing a tendency, stop doing that. Which is going to be bad from a fantasy perspective because it means that there's going to be basically like zero way to track what the Chiefs are going to do, and who knows what's going on with Kelsey. Sky Moore, not what I thought he was going to be. If my expectation, I've started him in the league where I had Kelsey. I put him in at flex. If you got burned by Sky Moore, one of the easiest things to learn in fantasy is when you're wrong, and move on. Don't let feelings get in the way. He will be under consideration for dropping if somebody else comes up that I want to replace him with off the wire right now. I don't know who that would be in that particular league. I'm really deep at wide receiver, and whatever, we'll have to see. So from the standpoint of the Lions did not look particularly good either. Laporta, he's going to be kind of a big slot. That's a little interesting if you're in a deeper league and you need to have a tight end. He's probably a little viable. The 2 big guys to break down, I know some people are going to talk about Josh Reynolds. Not interested in Josh Reynolds because his usage is probably going to vary just like it did last year. And who knows what's going to go on with Jamison Williams when Williams come back. Amon Ra basically disappeared in the second half, which was awesome. I guess the Kansas City defense is not particularly good. They might not be bad, and they're missing Chris Jones. The Lions, who knows what the Lions are going to be this year, so I don't want to overreact to anything. David Montgomery was who we thought David Montgomery was being. The biggest thing I saw with the Lions and David Montgomery is almost every single play that he was in on passing downs, and he was pass blocking, which means he's going to get some check downs. He's not going to get the design, the design plays. That's the guy Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get. I would say with both those two guys, if you buy David Montgomery and the guy who wants to give up David Montgomery, you're probably going to be buying a little high because his workload is probably not going to look exactly like this. I would say a few less carries are going to go his way. He's probably going to have a couple, 3 catches a game. They're going to be check downs. They're not going to be anything special. But this is probably, from a points perspective, this is probably what you're looking at to be his ceiling. But his floor is going to be relatively limited to whether or not he gets a touchdown. So you're going to get the 7 points between the yards and the catches, and it's just whether or not he falls into the end zone. Gibbs, on the other hand, he basically was in the role that we thought he was going to be in. I imagine he's going to get a couple more carries a game and a couple more catches. They're going to be design catches. So if there's a guy to buy off of this, it's definitely Jahmyr Gibbs, because I imagine that his usage is going to uptick as they get more used to him. So if you think of Kansas City just being a grab bag, dumpster fire, what the Detroit's going to do is they're going to design to get the ball to Gibbs, and it is not unfair to compare Gibbs to Alvin Kamara from some of their uses perspective down the line. I don't think he's going to be Alvin Kamara in the goal line, but I do think they are going to design plays to get him the ball more often. And I imagine if you look at Gibbs being 7 carries and 2 targets, I could definitely see the upkick on that being about 6 more, and probably a few more of those are going to be catches, which are always better than rushes. So yeah, if there's a guy to kind of get a hold of in this conundrum, it would be Gibbs. And the Chiefs, don't overreact, but definitely I think I said this already. Some teams that we think are going to be good are going to be bad, and some teams that we think are going to be bad are going to be good. And I already said I think the Chiefs might be bad this year. I also said that the Eagles may be not so good. The Bills might not be so good. And it's really easy to make a hot take on that and just to throw that out there because, to be the edgy guy. But teams get to sit around for a year and see what you do, and then they try and figure out a way to break it. And when you're on the top of the ladder, everybody is looking to knock you off. So they're the ones that they break down the most tape to say, how did you get there? And they're going to know you the best. And when you use your players like they did, instead of just going, these are our best guys, we're going to go out and beat you, you're probably going to beat yourself. And that's basically what the Chiefs did. So anyway, that's all I got for today. And I don't know, maybe tomorrow.